Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Windshield Time, the podcast where we help you use your windshield time to turn learning into earning. Windshield Time is brought to you by Service Excellence, and I am Chris Elmore, the host, and I am joined once again by Harold James Walker Jr., also known as J-Dub, or other less savory nicknames.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's quite
aliases.
a few. Aliases, AKAs, and those. Today on the podcast, we're going to continue talking about competence, confidence, and control. So wait a minute. I'm trying to mix it up.
So, yeah.
All right. So whatever that is and will end up being is kind of like my Star Trek captain's phrase for let's go.
Okay.
But it's not let's go.
Okay. What was a Star Trek, like Picard, what was his phrase for let's go?
Picard was engage. But let's ask Alex.
Okay.
Alex, what was Kirk's?
Set phasers to stun.
I'm not really sure Kirk had one.
Was make it so?
But make it so was Captain Picard, but engage was his. Make it so was how he said, okay, do that.
Right.
Your plan.
Mm-hmm.
Engage was pedal to the metal kind of thing for him.
Sure. Okay.
I
got you.
And then Christopher Pike in the movies, the Star Trek movies that most people are familiar with now, the reboots. Chris Pine, but no, the captain in that, his mentor captain was Christopher Pike.
Okay.
And his catchphrase, that was Bruce Greenwood that played him.
Okay.
His catchphrase was what, Alex? Punch it.
Punch it.
Right? And so some of the captains didn't have them, but I got to
roll it.
I don't remember what who was the captain from Discovery?
And action.
Captain Burnham, yes. She had a phrase, but I don't remember it.
Oh, she.
Okay.
How egalitarian.
But I got to say something here as a Trekkie, and I know there's still some out there.
Yeah.
And of course, Alex, the producer, he is a Trekkie.
Interesting.
You are clueless, but the new series, Strange New Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, what a good series!
Oh, really?
If you're a Star Trek, if you really like Star Trek, and my wife is going to cringe and be embarrassed when I say this, but I've probably read 300 Star Trek books.
Wow, the ones with pictures?
No, those are called comic books.
Okay.
Or graphic novels.
Gotcha.
And no, I don't read those. No, these are actual.
Oh yeah, I know. Gene Roddenberry. Isn't he the one who wrote them?
Are you just now thinking anything you can think that might be Star Trek, you're just saying it?
I'm just
Next
throwing out
go. Phasers.
Beam me up, Scottish.
But I got to tell you, the new show, Discovery, or not Discovery, but it came out of Discovery, but Strange New Worlds, it's like a prequel to the original series.
Oh, wow.
So it goes to the time before the Enterprise was captained by Kirk.
So was the USS Enterprise was originally an aircraft carrier, and then it became the Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
So one precluded the other.
And I don't know which one of the shows. It was might have been. I think it was The Next Generation. He had all of the ships that carried the name Enterprise, including a tall ship, a sailing ship. In the U.S. Navy that carried Enterprise as it went all the way up through the years, supposedly in the story. But the new captain, Christopher Pike, Anson Mount, my favorite captain.
Really?
Yeah.
Better than Picard?
You never say better.
Okay. Different.
You say favorite.
Your favorite. I got you. Okay, that's fair.
Because you got Kirk, because he was the first.
Yeah.
You have Picard, because The Next Generation. I mean, he was just the classiest captain.
Of course.
You have Cisco, Deep Space Nine.
Thong Song.
No. But you have Cisco, Deep Space Nine, and he was kind of a more Yeah, because he fought the Dominion War kind of thing. So he was
Right.
that. You had Captain Janeway, who was the first female captain on screen, and that series was kind of cool. Then you had, what was Scott Bakula? Jonathan Archer. That was the prequel.
I only know Scott Bakula from Quantum Leap.
Quantum Leap. Yes. And so, anyway, you have all these captains, but Anson Mount, I love the way he plays the character, and they're doing this thing. You know how Star Trek is. Well,
Do I?
and Scotty, they introduced Scotty in this series as a young ensign, right? And he's really smart, of course, and he's like, yeah, if we go between these two binary stars and we do this and do that and do that and do this, and if we time it just right, we can do it. But there's a 1 in 1,000, or there's a 99 times out of 1,000 we die doing it in the simulations.
99 times out of 1,000. That's only 1% of the time.
And the Captain Pike goes, okay, let's do it. Well, you understand we could die. He goes, well, we'll just turn it off before we explode. I mean, just the banter. Have you seen that yet, Alex?
That's not the Simon Pegg Scotty?
No, that is in the movie
Chris Pine
reboot.
Gotcha.
Chris Pine,
Yeah.
Zachary Quinto, and all that, and what's her name, Zoe Saldana as Uhura, and all that.
Gotcha.
So now that we've nerded out, well, let's just face it. Now that me and Alex,
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't know.
minutes,
The collective we is included in that.
Okay, but I do want to point out on an earlier podcast, before we started, I asked you how many Cars songs you can name, and not songs about cars,
Yes.
but songs by the Cars.
Right.
And you said one.
Yeah.
But then
After we just took a break a while
between
back,
podcasts, I was able to show you that you knew at least
I had
six
referential experience
knowledge,
with
6 car songs. At least 6.
Very true. Very true. I stand corrected. Thank you for proving me wrong once again
Do not
to the masses.
Do not step in the arena. It's like you're James Walker.
Well, it's because you're calling the arena. Let
and
me call
I
an
am
arena.
Ric Flair. Woo!
I will call an arena next time, and we'll see how well you step to.
I'm the host. You do not have arena calling power.
That's fair.
Alex, can you verify that? See?
It's ratified.
Alex has the host handbook.
Make
back
it
there,
so.
And he has the co-host handbook, which is only 1 page, and it says "Do what the host says."
That's it.
That's rule number 1 through 10.
1 through 10. Oddly enough, it's the same number of car songs that I know. So, what are we talking about today?
Anyway, no, we're going to get back to the 3 C's. We're going to get back to competence, confidence, and control. And where we left off was talking about how, competence was you're gaining skills, you're gaining knowledge, you're gaining experience, you're getting better at those things, and that drives your confidence. And then you get in the field, and as you do more troubleshooting, and you're able to troubleshoot, diagnose, and repair on your own without confirmation, that's where your confidence skyrockets.
Sure.
And and we have to make a distinction between, because we talked about sometimes you fake it till you make it, and that sounds really terrible because of the word fake. But listen, all of us have done this, where especially if you're a technician, you're going into someone's house and you know that part of your job is to make the person feel comfortable with you there, with the company. You want to make them feel valued, but you want them to value you and trust you and your ability and those kind of things. And sometimes you got to ask for help. And that feels like when you ask for help, you're kind of faking it, but that's not what it is. We say fake it till you make it, but if you go into someone, we talked about this too, what is confidence without competence?
Cockiness.
It can be seen as cockiness. Now, you might have just such an awesome self-belief that you figure you'll work it out no matter what, and it doesn't come from a cockiness place, maybe. But I think most people would say you could be, if it's not cockiness, let's dial it back a little bit and say it might be overconfident.
Okay.
And overconfidence can get you in trouble sometimes,
Sure.
right? And so because we know personality profiles, we didn't mention this, but most of you guys out there, technicians, are high S's and C's, or some combination of the two. And I would say, what would you say, 85%?
Yeah, that's what I've seen.
Yeah, it's really high. So C's don't like to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
They don't like, and the embarrassment is coming from something that maybe they should have known or they think they should have known.
Right.
Right. It's different than the embarrassment of, the dream you have of where you go to school in your underwear kind of thing, right? It's not that kind of embarrassment.
Right.
It's not that. It's more they're embarrassed by not knowing something,
Yeah.
right? And so as
knowledge
such,
is power for
yeah,
IC.
And knowledge is because knowledge powers confidence, right?
Yeah.
And so the high C wants knowledge before they feel confident, and they want it at a high level before they feel confident,
Right.
right? Because they don't feel like they have a right to feel confident until it gets to a certain level. A high S tends to focus on the other person, and they also have high standards, and they don't feel confident because they don't want the other person believing something that isn't true.
Yeah.
Kind of that coming from that aspect of it. And so confidence is something that's really hard to build as a technician unless you understand that and you're self-aware about your profile and your tendencies and those kind of things.
And I think confidence is problematic when you go with strict confidence only in yourself. I think confidence stems from the fact that you are backed by a company who has institutional knowledge that you can resource. So if you say, hey, this is me, I'm a student doctor going in and I'm on my own, there you have a ton of reasons to not be confident. But if I realize I'm in an emergency hospital during a residency that allows 15 to 20 other senior doctors to help me out if we get into a situation, then you can be confident. So if you're saying, man, I have to strap on my own confidence and believe in myself, believe in the institution sending you and in the resources that you can bring to bear on the situation outside of yourself.
Yes.
And that's where your confidence can stem from.
Yeah, and again, high C's want the knowledge. They may not want to ask for help.
Sure.
S's don't want to bother people and ask for help. And so C's and S's are introverts.
Yes.
So there's not a lot of outreach going on there. And so you have to overcome that.
Yeah.
Right? Because if we go back to competence, to gain confidence, gaining knowledge is something that today is easy to do. It doesn't mean it's easy to understand. It doesn't mean it's easy to
It's easy to access.
absorb. It's easy to access knowledge.
Sure.
It's easy to access how-tos and explanations. And you can get really granular on things that maybe you wouldn't have if you didn't have unlimited resources to get that granular.
Right.
And certainly now with the diagnostic algorithms that take in information from test probes and things like that, ChatGPT and other large language models where you can input stuff and they can spit you back stuff that other people have, this collective knowledge that's out there. It can aggregate that information and bring it to you.
Yeah.
That's so much easier now for you to get granular and to understand things at a deep level compared to what you could do when you could still do those things, but ancient terms that most people don't understand anymore. Alex, do you know what a card catalog is? There was a little
Dewey Decimal
contemplation,
System.
and then I don't think so. So the Dewey Decimal System, the old DDS, got Alex to remember a card catalog. So you could still do that then, but the collective works of knowledge were not stored in one place,
Right.
like it is with the internet.
Sure.
And so I think we could, as we said before, we can gain a lot of knowledge quickly. We can be familiar with a lot of things. We can even dive in and be an expert on the technical aspects of something and the intellectual aspects of something, but then we can't necessarily reproduce it in the field.
Yeah.
Or we can understand intellectually the workings of something and how to fix it. Then we can watch videos on how to fix it. And in those videos, we can have, hey, now, don't forget to do this or don't forget to do that, because if you do that, you're screwed when you get to this point, and then you've ruined everything.
Yeah.
We can do that. So there is a bit of shortcutting that can happen, but still we got to get out there and put our hands on it.
Right.
We have to do that. And I think there's an acceptable level of competence that should give you an acceptable level of confidence, even though neither is as high as you may want it.
Sure. Agreed.
And I think that's where most technicians have to get over that hump, because the reality of the service world today is that you do not have 4 years to master this. You just don't anymore. The company I went to work for, they paid for my apprenticeship program for 3 years. And the next company I went to work for, they paid for it the 6th year. I mean, the 4th year. My bad.
Right. Well, okay.
Yeah, I went from 3 to 6, in 1 year. I'm so smart.
Right.
But so companies were prepared to invest long term in things like that. And I'm not saying they won't today.
But they expect more out of you sooner today.
But they expect more of you sooner today. And you're not that program, that 4-year apprenticeship program, is not up against a 3-week intensive.
Right.
That you can send somebody to.
Sure.
Right. So again, not to belabor the point, but the amount of information you can gain quickly today should accelerate competence, at least in that part of it, because we can't accelerate the time for the experience, right?
You did. You went from 3 to 6 years in a year.
Well, I'm the host.
Well, that's
right. In the rule book, right, Alex? So
right.
I think it's rule number 97A, section 3.
Right.
The host can accelerate time.
That's it.
So
how does that play into control, though? Because I know when we say the word control, there's going to be people who shudder at that a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's the more psychological. Confidence is internal psychology, right? But control is both internal and external, but let's strip away the technician part of it.
Yeah.
Or let's just talk about a service call.
Yeah.
Okay. The provider in any provider-consumer relationship is in control of delivery.
Sure.
Right? They're not in control necessarily of the choice of consumption, because if you think about it, you didn't decide to go fix that person's air conditioner.
Right.
They called you. They decided to ask you to come do it.
Right.
And because you're in business and you want to make money, you go.
Right.
Right? If it meets certain criteria, which, if they single family home or they own the place and they have a system that doesn't work, or they've got a leak somewhere or whatever, then you go.
Right.
So what the provider is in control of is the delivery of the product, the delivery of the thing to the consumer. And consumers willingly submit to that.
Right.
Okay? They willingly submit to that. Now, I know what you might think. Well, yeah, but they control whether they spend the money with me, they give me money or whatever. Well, yeah, they do, because you can't force them to do anything.
Yeah.
But their circumstances put them in a forced buy situation, which means they are forced to pay an expert to do something for them because they can't do it on their own. Mm-hmm. Or if they did it on their own, it would more than likely damage something and cost them way more and ruin things. So they have to pay an expert. So they have already decided, I'm spending money on something.
And they've already decided they want to think about spending money with you because you're in front of them.
That's right. Or you said you would come.
Yeah.
And you said I can be there tomorrow at 2, and that's fast enough. And so tomorrow at 2 you go. But the control piece of this is about controlling the delivery from external psychology and the psychology of that service call. So we know we're on a forced buy. We go there. We're in control of what we tell the customer. We're in control of the thoroughness that we do. We're in control of the value we deliver. We're in control of all those things. And we're in control, or we should be in control, of the direction.
The direction,
and
the process, the timing.
Exactly. And the moment we are not in control of that, because either you or the customer control the call.
Yeah.
The customer, as soon as the customer controls the call, because you got to think, remember, forced buy, as soon as they control it, they want the minimum amount that they need to get to where they were before it broke for the least amount of money possible to make that happen.
In the fastest amount of time.
In the fastest amount of time. That is what will happen when the customer takes over,
right.
which usually looks like the Band-Aid repair.
Right.
Whatever. Or fixing something that really should be replaced. And so the control comes in because you bring to bear the tools that you have for diagnosis, the tools you have for presentation, your process that helps with the psychology of the service call, all those things. That's where the control is. Yeah. And so, but you don't mistake controlling the delivery and controlling the call with manipulating the outcome and controlling the customer to direct them to do what you want them to do against their will. Right. That's not what we're talking about.
Well, and I think that the thought process is that you want to control the environment. If you go in a doctor, a client wants the doctor to be in control, and the doctor needs to have that environment be controlled because the client can't just come in and say, "Hey, give me 50 milligrams of whatever medicine." There's a place of where they value control. But back to the psychological component of the service technician, one of the areas of control that comes back to this book you might have read called the Bible, James 3.
I was recommended to read the Bible when I was 26.
I remember the story by everybody that you knew. Yes. But James 3, it says, basically it talks about the power of the tongue. And it says if you can control the tongue, you're in control of the whole of your body. Yeah. And what I would say is that both how you speak, but also the amount with which you speak. Man, I've been on things where guys undermine they are competent, they are confident, but they undermine control by speaking too much, by being too glib, by over-talking, by sometimes being funny when they shouldn't be. Really learning how to choose your words thoughtfully and precisely, knowing when to be funny, when to back off, when to ask questions, and when to shut up. I think is one of the single biggest elements of control that you would want from a doctor, you'd want from a mechanic, you'd want from a teacher, and definitely people want from a service professional. What are your thoughts about that? Because you and I have both seen people who just talk too much.
Yeah, and I think, you talk yourself out of the sale.
Sure.
All that stuff. But I think, and we've done a podcast or two on silence is your friend.
Right.
In these things. But I think that what happens is that I know as a technician, when I first started, the one thing I was worried about the most was not making mistakes technically. Sure. And so I really focused on that. What I didn't, and because my mind was so occupied with that most of the time, I didn't focus on communication with the customer. Mm-hmm. Because I thought, logically, this is what you need to do to make it last as long as possible. So why wouldn't you do it?
Right.
And when the customer did not agree with my logical conclusion, which was based on science,
math,
fundamental truths, all these things, then I was like, I don't know what to do now.
Right.
Because my world is technical.
Yeah.
My world is based on science and physics and whatever else, the logical outcome. Why wouldn't the customer do it? So I was not thinking along those lines. So I never had control. Mm-hmm. I had control over the technical.
Yeah.
But I never had control over the delivery of the whole product and what I was doing. So the moment that you don't have that, that's where things go sideways. And so I wasn't thinking about how much I was talking. I wasn't thinking about the person's profile and how they like to give and receive information. I wasn't thinking about tendencies and those kind of things. And so that's why we talked about competence first and then confidence. Now, all of these things have to run concurrently a lot of times.
Sure.
You always stay up on the latest and greatest. So you're always learning. You're always staying relevant, staying competent. Confidence, sometimes you go into a situation you've never worked on, but you know you can figure it out. So there's a confidence there that's not based in a direct, exact knowledge of that particular problem.
Sure.
Okay. So sometimes, they're overlap and are continuous. Okay. And then when you get into a service call, now we go back to when we talk about the technical stuff, right? And going into a call and confidently fixing it and doing those kind of things and being in control of the technical. Now let's back it up and go, okay, how are we in control of the communication and the customer relationship?
Sure.
Well, we got to be competent at that before we're confident in doing it. Think about this. It's handling objections.
Yeah.
Well, if I don't know how to handle objections, I'm not in control.
I'll take it even further, and you would agree with this. You can know how to handle objections, but unless you've practiced and are native,
confidence.
right? So, yeah.
So gaining competence with that.
Right.
And how do you gain competence? You role play.
And you practice.
And you practice, and you do all these things. You role play.
Train others, believe it or not. The best way to learn something is to train somebody else on how to do it.
Yeah. So, but in that moment, when you get on a call and you don't know how to handle a particular objection, you lose control. And you have to retreat. You have to backtrack. And so and what you would do in that situation in a technical moment, okay, I'm troubleshooting. I think it's this. I do it. Oh, crap. What do I do now? That wasn't right. And they could be big moments or tiny moments, right? Like you end up trying to do something hot and you end up frying something electrical on a HVAC system, or you end up arcing something in an electrical system, whatever. You try to do something without turning the water off on a plumbing system and it goes haywire. And it doesn't have to be something like that. I remember one time I was working on a geothermal system and I was in a furrier, place sold fur coats and stuff when that was a thing. And they had this vault and they had coat racks, rods that were 3 tiers tall.
Wow.
And so they would come with
You could reach the first tier?
Yes. They had the big, long telescoping pole.
Gotcha.
But I'm seriously, the ceiling of this place was 30 feet high.
Wow.
And they controlled humidity. They kept it at 62 degrees with like 40% humidity year round. Because people stored their fur coats in the summertime. And I remember I was in there and I had to burp a geothermal loop, so I had a flush cart, and I was filling up the flush cart with water, and I had a garden hose that I ran in from. I probably had 3 hoses together.
Sure.
And so I had to go outside and turn it on. And I came in and I filled it up, and I got to the top and I dropped the hose. Well, what do you think happened? What happens when you drop a hose?
Water goes everywhere?
With a squirter. What do you call it? A nozzle?
Yeah, nozzle. Like the nozzle handle hits the ground and it starts spraying.
The nozzle handle hits the ground and hits you in the face or the nether region or someplace else where you're going to get wet, right?
Right.
No, this time it shot water all over $1,500 fur coats, 3 stories high or 3 tiers high and deep. I was out of control at that moment. I didn't know what to do. So in that out of control moment, what did I do? I got the telescoping pole and I just moved the furs around and put the wet ones at the back and in other racks and got the heck out of there, right?
Right.
And no one ever said anything.
Sure.
So Lowenthal Furriers on Virginia Beach Boulevard in Virginia Beach, Virginia, that was me. I'm sorry. But so that's a moment I lost control technically.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody's burnt something up. Everybody's broke something. Everybody's gotten nasty or let water out. We've done all those things. But when it comes to the controlling the customer, not the customer, but controlling the customer relationship, we have the same evolution that happens.
Yeah.
Technically, what would I do if I was on a technical problem and, oh, crap, I did the troubleshooting. Oh, I did the wrong thing, and now I don't know what to do. I would call somebody.
Right.
I would reach out. I'd go online and look. I would find a way to rectify the situation and get back in control.
Yeah.
But I can do that behind the scenes most of the time without the customer knowing.
Right.
Okay? But in a situation like the objection handling, and the customer can put you in that if you're not even sure how to handle, well, that's too expensive, which is a fundamental common objection that we teach how to handle, and you should be able to drill that and practice it. But one you may not know how to handle, even with practicing, LEAP and all the objection handling things we talk about is, I'm sorry, but Mars is on the ascendant, so I'm unable to make a decision at this time. That's going to throw everybody off.
Sure. It's throwing me off right now.
But you go back to your fundamentals, right?
Yeah.
Just like you would technically. If you screw something up, you go back to your fundamentals. You look at any sports figure that's in a slump in their career, where they say, well, I got to go back to the fundamentals, right? What did Rocky do in Rocky IV?
Went back and he trained with Apollo?
No.
Was that 3? That was Rocky 3.
That was Rocky III. No. What happened was he was training with all his regular training stuff in his gym, and then they showed the Russian dude in his high-tech gym training and all this kind of stuff. So what does Rocky do? He's like, I'm going to go on a Russian Siberian farm and train.
Right.
And he's climbing mountains, and he's moving rocks, and he's punching
Ugh. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
He's dodging the Ugg's club. But he goes back to fundamentals. So that's what we do. So in that situation with that, to maintain control, we would go back to fundamentals. But now let's go back to the newer tech who is gaining competence and confidence with technical things and knowledge and skills. Today, at the same time, you have to gain the competence and confidence with the customer relationship skills at the same time. When I was in apprenticeship training, I got 3 hours maybe of customer service training, and it was a joke.
Sure.
You know, when you go to manufacturers for training, sometimes you'll get sales training.
Right.
But it's very old school HIT or FAB training or features benefits training. And so you don't get a lot of customer service or sales training or anything like that from the technical part of this. And so you've got to learn that at the same time because, as we've said, you don't get 4 years to go in the field and be on your own.
Yeah.
You don't get 3 years or whatever, 2 years. A lot of times it's within a year of coming into the trade that you're expected to be at a technical level of competence that you can go out and do basic troubleshooting and maintenance and things like that. And, hey, if you're starting as a maintenance tech, that time is even sooner.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? It could be within 6 months you're out running maintenance calls. And so you have to gain the skills and knowledge technically and the skills and knowledge about customer relationship, and you have to do it all at the same time.
So I'm going to do a little word picture that I do with my technicians with you, Chris. Right now you go to a...
Do I need to draw?
No, it's a word
It's a word picture. Okay.
All right. I know these are large concepts.
Would it be more like an
analogy,
mental image that I'm forming from your words?
Let's roll with that.
Let's see.
Let's roll with that. So I do this with my technicians. Chris, you go into a Mexican food restaurant and they hand you a menu. Who's in control of what you eat?
Me.
Every technician says me. And then I ask, well, now wait a minute. You're at a Mexican food restaurant. Can you order pizza? Can you order lobster? Well no. I'm at a Mexican food restaurant. Okay. Can you go up to the server, I apologize, and say, hey, I know the fajitas are $25. Can you give them to me for 12? No. So fundamentally, they are in control.
They're in control of what's offered.
You feel like you're in control, correct?
Yeah, I'm in control of what I select.
You're in control of what you select. So this is where we need to iron out the understanding that we, as the professional provider, are in control. They feel like they're in control. And there's a couple of psychological components at play. Is one, they have options that gives them a feeling of control, but we control the options, so we are actually in control.
And it's also their home.
And it's their home,
We're
right?
kind of in their arena.
Sure. Second thing I would say is if somebody's like, well, man, just distill this down to one thing for me. The one thing for control would be if you lose control of a conversation or a situation, on the diagnostic
like
side,
I have now, clearly.
As you have clearly lost. On the diagnostic side, if you lose control, you start asking questions, correct? You start asking questions of the system. It's the exact same thing with a person. To gain control of any conversation that you feel like you've lost, don't go into overdrive and double down on trying to talk.
Yes.
Start asking questions. Ooh. If somebody says Venus is in retrograde and Mars is on the ascendant, my first thing isn't like, well, I've studied astrology and I know. Stop. Just ask questions. Well, what do you mean by that? What would you need? One of the single best ways for you to exert control is to ask a question, because you then are now forced or almost compelled emotionally to respond to my question. And therefore, I regain control of the conversation, but you feel like you're in control because you're the one talking. That's one of the more important tactics that I encourage people to understand. When you lose control, don't start talking, start asking.
Yeah, and it's better to ask open-ended questions. And we've talked about that on here before, but the open-ended question, you're channeling, you're not controlling the response, you're not directing the response, you're not predicting the response. Because some systems out there will teach you to ask questions because you know you're going to get an answer in a certain way. And okay, fine. If that's what you want to do that. But asking open-ended questions also makes the customer feel more engaged rather than they're just a participant in what you're doing to get it fixed. Right? And so if I'm asking open-ended questions, then I'm not – it's actually kind of cool because if I ask an open-ended question, I'm getting more information than typically I ask for.
Agreed. And also there's less emotional constraints, very simply. If I ask you, Chris, do you want to get this taken care of today? That is a very narrow, close-ended question. And by saying today, the customer automatically feels a pressure to say no, even if they did want it today. But if I asked a question, hey, when were you looking at getting this taken care of? They're able to say, hey, sooner than later, today, if at all possible. So you not only get more context, you also get more conviction behind the context.
Yeah, and you also get more content, too, if you think about it.
For sure.
So when were you looking to get this done? Well, we're taking the kids to Disney World tomorrow.
Right.
And so we won't be back until next Thursday, and then we got to do this and this. Well, that's telling you right there that they're spending money on Disney World.
Yeah.
You know they're spending money. But also it's showing they're not being reserved and they're not holding information back from you necessarily because they're giving you more than you asked for.
Right.
And so questions are the number one way to be in control of a conversation because if you're in control of the conversation, you're directing it.
Right.
I mean, if you're asking questions, you're in control. You're directing the conversation.
Right.
And so even think of something, I don't know, I did it on a podcast recently or maybe before. You started to say something, and I held up my finger, and I asked you, and I held my hand, and then I asked you a question, and I could see it on your face. You're like, oh, I guess we're done with that. Now you're going to answer the question that I asked.
On. Right.
But you didn't go, no.
I'm not going to answer that question.
I'm not going to answer that until I say
my
that
thought.
You didn't do that.
Right.
And I was not manipulating you in any way.
Says you.
That you know of. But I was controlling the conversation.
Sure.
And so that's the control we're talking about. Well, it's one aspect of the control we're talking about is because I want to go back to another – I want to bring in another concept here.
Okay. Is it a word picture?
It's not a word picture, but you might form pictures from my words.
Okay.
Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. But it's not a word picture.
Okay.
But pictures could come from my words.
Go.
In your brain.
I'm ready.
You can close your eyes?
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking through it.
It's too creepy looking. Stop. So there's a concept that we have to understand which goes from expert to novice. Mm-hmm. How an expert has to relate to a novice.
Sure.
Okay.
Explain like I'm 5 is the concept there, right?
Yeah. Explain, but the reason, like that, if you said, I'm going to explain it to you like you're 5, that would sound demeaning to a person.
Yeah, I bring that. Explain like
on,
I'm 5 it's a Reddit thread of where, hey, help me, you who are a professional, help me understand this in terms that are.
And what is the professional expert authority who operates with ethics and respect for human beings and all that? What do they do? They don't talk down to anybody.
No.
And, you know, we don't use phrases like dummy it down or dumb it down.
Yeah.
No, you translate it. You translate it in a language the other person can understand, just like when you're getting your 3-year-old to brush. Just like my grandson, when I'm trying to get Jude to brush his teeth,
right?
He has a certain time he wants to brush, that he brushes his teeth. He knows he does. Mm-hmm. However, inevitably, he runs off to play.
Yeah.
And so now I have to get him to brush his teeth, but it has to be beneficial to him. Mm-hmm. And so what do I start doing? Okay, Jude, come brush your teeth, and then we can read a story. Mm-hmm. You know, so there's a reward to it and all this kind of stuff. But Jude is not stupid.
Right.
He does not have the knowledge to understand why he should brush his teeth and why he should do it now.
Right.
And et cetera. So I have to translate it to him.
It goes back real fast to that Einstein quote, which is, unless you can explain a concept to a 5-year-old, you don't understand it well enough yourself.
Right. I like that because you have to understand how to parse it, how to translate it, how to organize the information so it can be understood by the other person. And that's why when we talk about customer-friendly language, you know, I always refer to translating because that's what it is at the heart of it, translating. It's like when you say something in English and then it's translated by an app. I do this with Letty all the time. You know, I'll think of something I want to say to her, ask her, and I'll put it in Google Translate so it's in Spanish. Because obviously Letty is fluent in Spanish, fluent in English. And I'll send it to her, and she'll usually comment back to me something like, that was Google Translate. And the reason it is because it was a literal translation of what I wanted to say in English, but it had none of the colloquialism, none of the vernacular, the emotion,
idiomatic.
Yes, all the other Walker words you can come up with. It had none of that. And so what that puts into it loosely is personality. Literal translation is just the definition.
Right.
And literally it may mean something different than it means colloquially or idiomatically, like you said, which I would expect you to say those things, but whatever. So translating something to someone is not in knowing what word replaces the word in the other language.
Right.
It's in knowing the meaning of those words together in English.
Right.
For if I'm speaking to another English speaker, and then translating that, which is, I got to know the word for dog.
Right.
Or cat in another language to talk about a dog or a cat. But then the other things around it come from what I'm trying to say, the implied meaning.
The intent, right.
All that. And so to maintain control, you have to be a great translator.
For sure.
And we have to take into consideration the other person's point of view. We have to understand the psychology. We have to understand where they're standing at that moment, what the status is of them. And that's why we ask questions, because that's the only way we'll know those things. We talk about open-ended questions. How do you know somebody's profile for sure? You ask them an open-ended question. And the way they respond, the number of words they use, the words they use, the speed at which they talk, the length of their sentences, the other things that come into it other than what you ask will nail their profile for you.
Yeah.
And that tells you how you have to speak to them going forward, which helps you translate. Because if I'm translating Spanish from English to Spanish, on the app it doesn't say Puerto Rican Spanish, Cuban Spanish, Mexican Spanish, Spain Spanish. It doesn't say any of that.
Right.
It just translates into Spanish.
Right.
And the word I use might not be the word that is most commonly used in, say, Mexican Spanish. It might be only in Spain they use that word, or Puerto Rico, whatever. And so understanding where somebody's from in that case helps you translate better.
Yeah, meeting them where they are.
Will they understand what I was saying because I translated it to Spanish?
Yes.
Sure. You know, you drop Letty in Spain or Cuba or Puerto Rico, anywhere, Venezuela. She's born in the U.S., but her family's from Mexico. She is going to be able to carry on a conversation with that person.
Right.
But she's going to find herself at a slight disadvantage because she speaks the same language as them, but she doesn't speak their language.
Right.
And that's where profile comes in and those kind of things. And understanding the psychology of it.
It also comes into where typically younger, less experienced technicians, say, lean more heavily on their technical expertise than they maybe ought, because they feel like by using big words and phrases, present company included, I guess, that they can show their competency through jargon. The really skilled guys have come full circle to actually now come back past this super technical explanation and put it into really simple words and phrases that the customer catches the meaning and intent of, not just the information about. And so I think that is something that where if you're a younger professional, don't allow the strength of your communication to be your knowledge base. Allow the strength of your communication to be putting that knowledge base into terms that the customer actually absorbs well.
Mm-hmm. And I think Mandela's quote I've said on here before, when you speak to a man in a language he understands, it goes to his head. When you speak to a man in his own language, it goes to his heart. Mm-hmm. Okay? And it's like, well, it's just like the story I tell about you and the time we were at the convention. We told it to Alex earlier. The time you were at the convention.
Yeah.
We were at a convention together, and we were in the vendor hall. And our company was putting on the convention, so we were there as employees of the company. And we're just walking around, and the servers are there, and they have name tags on. And under their name, it says the country they're from. And we were walking, and you saw a guy who was from Sudan, mm-hmm. and you greeted him in Sudanese Arabic. Mm-hmm. And his face lit up, and he was instantly your brother. I think he was hugging you and all kinds of stuff. He was so excited that you could speak Sudanese Arabic. Now, he understood English.
Right.
So if you would have walked by that guy and you would have said,
"How you doing today? How you doing, Ibrahim?"
Yeah, whatever. How you doing?
Thanks for being here. Thanks for serving us.
And he would have been nice. He would have understood what you were saying. Mm-hmm. But he might even have smiled, and it might have lit his face up a little bit. But the moment the Sudanese Arabic words came out of your mouth, it was just elation is what you saw in his face. Now, is a customer going to be elated because you translate the fact that they need a new panel? Probably not. Because again, but that's part of understanding context. They're in a forced buy mode.
Yeah.
Remember, get the minimum amount that I need to get it where it was before it broke, for the least amount of money in the fastest amount of time. That's the psychology there. It doesn't mean that's all they want, but that's the driving underlying psychology in any kind of transactional thing like that, and when they're in a forced buy. So the control part of this comes from, again, not only your technical competence and confidence, but also your competence with customer relationship and the soft skills that we call it, handling objections and reading people and asking the right questions and following the process if you're in Canada of in-home sales and service. Obviously ours is press play. Those are our principles. But that's how all of this works together to create control. And the control is not to manipulate the customer and make them do your bidding. It's to help them understand your value, your expertise, and and have them trust you and have confidence and see value in it, so that they will do what you recommend, because you're only recommending it out of putting their interest first.
Right.
Right? So, big topic. That's why we want to take 2 podcasts to do it. So remember, competence leads to confidence, which leads to your ability to control the situation. And that's with anything, really, right? So, once again, if you want to talk to me, and many of you do, it's 254-733-7109 or Elmore at servextra.com, SERVEXTRA.com. And if you want to talk to James Walker,
James at serveextra.com or 254-230-5266.
So, go to our website, www.serveextra.com. Check out previous episodes of the podcast. We've got 173.7 episodes up now, plus.
Plus.
Over that. Way over that. You can search, find any topic you want, like and share the podcast, send us suggestions for topics. Check out lots of other free stuff you can get there, blogs, free downloads. Check out our next classes in person for tech and sales coming up here in beautiful Buda, Texas. Not Buddha, Buda. It's a Texas thing. That's how we pronounce things in Texas. In the meantime, James.
Yes. What do we do here at Service Excellence?
What do we do here at Service Excellence? But give me Whitney Houston, go.
I did this last time and it didn't work well.
Did you do Whitney?
You did. I did Whitney last time.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I tried and you told me you stop.
Okay, do it as Outcast.
We turn learning into earning.
Alex, how would you rate his Outcast on a 0 to 10?
What? It's such a
1. You got a 1. You didn't get a 0.
Hey, congratulations to me.
Thanks, everybody.
Best grade.